This is AdTechGod, and this is a commercial message. With Harmony Direct, Innovid has streamlined the supply path to its purest form by removing all friction points, including technology hops, fees, and energy waste. Released as part of its Harmony initiative, which aims to solve the biggest challenges facing CTV advertising today, Harmony Direct is already being used by agencies and publishers today. Find out how you can put more dollars towards working media, improve fill rates, and take the greener path. Visit innovid.com/harmony. Again, go to innovid.com/harmony. This is a disclosure. Please note that all guests featured on the AdTechGod pod are invited to participate. They do not pay in any form to appear on the show. However, guests may be sponsors of the AdTechGod community, the AdTech forum, or other product offerings. Welcome to the AdTechGod pod, your window into the world of advertising technology and the people behind it. I'm your host, AdTechGod. Welcome back to another episode of the AdTechGod pod, the podcast where we meet the brilliant minds of our AdTech CEOs and COOs. I'm your host, AdTechGod. In today's episode, I am thrilled to host a dynamic duo that's been transforming the digital advertising industry, Chris and Tim Vanderhook, the CEO and COO of Viant. Chris and Tim, through their leadership at Viant, have been pivotal in redefining how advertising technology can create more meaningful connections between brands and consumers. Viant as a company has been at the forefront of this industry. Their journey is one of true entrepreneurship, from their early days of launching a social network that rivaled the giants to their daring pivot into AdTech. Under their guidance, Viant has made strategic moves, including the acquisition of Adelphic, which further strengthened their position in the market, capable of delivering cross-channel strategies that encompass desktop, mobile, CTV, and more. The Vanderhooks are known not just for their business acumen, but also for their forward-thinking approach to the advertising ecosystem. Their insights on the future of media, the importance of data privacy, and the integration of technology in advertising are shaping the conversations that will lead us into the next era of AdTech. I personally find the Vanderhook brothers' narrative particularly inspiring, as they've consistently stayed ahead of the curve and work as siblings and partners, which is impressive. Chris and Tim, it's an honor to have you both on the AdTechGod pod. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. It's great to be here, ATG. I've always wondered what AdTech heaven was like, and it looks just like my office.
You know what? It does, except I have a weird clock that looks like a helicopter in front of me. I don't know what this thing is.
Well, it's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you guys here. You know, Viant's been in the space for a really long time. I'm familiar with, some of the acquisitions, some of the growth that you have in market, but I'd really love to start with how it all started and how you both got into AdTech and what brought you to today.
It's a long story on how we got started, but I've told it before, so I'll tell your audience. For the audience, this is Tim. It all started when I was 18 years old. I went to Chris and I told him I had this idea on the internet. And so basically, I needed his credit card because I didn't have one yet. After about 3 weeks, he finally gave me his credit card. I told him I'm going to buy a domain name. I'm going to build our website, and we're going to sell advertising on the internet. The very first name of Viant. So I charged this card $99, built the website, and our name was advertisementbanners.com because it was the only domain we could register. That was the original name. And from that point forward, we self-taught ourselves the industry. We had no background in the industry. We simply just took that leap of faith and counted on the fact of youth and energy that we would learn the industry. So we were self-taught. And that was way back in 1999 that we created the company.
It's such early days in AdTech. It wasn't even called AdTech back then. It was called internet advertising. And there really wasn't an industry, and it is a typical story that you used to hear back then of people starting a company. We weren't in our parents' garage. We were actually in a little office we started in at our parents' house. And Tim really just had what he didn't tell you was he had to start a company because he was 18. He worked for my dad in a construction company, and he demanded a sales job, not a job digging post holes. And my dad fired him. So Tim needed a job. So I also didn't mean to start a company with Tim. I just realized that when I gave him my credit card, he told me he wouldn't pay me back the $99 because he had no customers. So Tim said, well, I can't pay you, so why don't you take half the company? So that was about as juvenile as it sounds. That's how we started.
And there's actually a third brother, Russ Vanderhook, who's involved in the company. He's a lot bigger than Chris and I. So he basically said, hey, I'm going to kick your ass unless I get to do it also. So here's my check for $33. We always joke that Russ's check bounced, but it actually didn't. And that's how the cap table was set up.
That's incredible. That's such a funny story. I mean, I could tell you, I have a sibling and I've charged more than $99, but don't worry, I'll pay you back.
I was too honest.
So you started off obviously buying a domain. How did you even get to the point you're at today? You obviously expanded on what you initially started with.
And what was that company? Well, what was AdTech before AdTech is the ultimate question. Before there was technology, you had publishers and you had brokers. And so you were a broker in the middle. And there was lots of middlemen, not too different than today's world. Lots of middlemen where one broker would call another broker who called another broker for people who needed eyeballs. And everyone was measuring eyeballs, which were basically logs of hits to their website back in the day. Before third-party ad serving was there, it was Excel files going from broker to broker and people adjusting price against whatever publisher logs of the number of visitors to their webpage.
And we're talking, this is 468 by 60 pixel banners at the top of a web page. And, Tim's idea was really that, hey, look, we can't start a real internet company and carry inventory and sell goods, but we can sell advertising and look at these banners on the website. Let's call these websites, let's try and buy them and let's sell them to people who want to buy them, essentially. That was kind of the initial hypothesis. And we were selling to, these weren't big companies buying them back then. These were .com type companies, casinos.
Okay, so here's a great story. The first customer is actually another ad tech entrepreneur, Brett Wilson of Tube Mogul, who's now taken a company public and sold it and highly successful. He ran a company called AsSeenOnTV.com, and that was our biggest buyer. And we had to make the ads for him, place the ads, and it worked really well. He sold that business, which was a success.
We sold a ton of Billy Blank's Tybo videos.
X10 wireless cameras, lowermybills.com. When Orbitz launched, they called us and basically I'd never heard of them. And they said, hey, we've got this huge budget. We're going to take out Expedia. And in my head, I was like, ha, ha, ha. But then they were real and they bought so many ads from us. It was shocking. Yeah. We really helped build Orbitz up from the time that they launched. But yeah, that's kind of how it snowballed into the company that we are today.
What do you think is like the biggest milestone you guys have, can be really proud of? Because obviously you've done so much in, since 1999. It's a long time to be in the same industry, same company. What do you feel is the biggest milestone for you?
We can give you a ton of milestones, right? I mean,
the obvious one that sticks out.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you some quick hits on one. We were advertising banners.com, but then we realized that's a dumb name. So later we said, we became Specific Media, like around 2001. Then the industry, the dot-com bubble and the crash, happened. Everybody was going out of business. We said, hey, CPM-based advertising, no one's willing to buy it. We started popularizing the CPA model. We switched from the banner ads to, we actually popularized the pop under, not the pop up, but the pop under. And that's where we had, companies like Orbitz. We were in college, just so you know. Tim and I were both president of our fraternity. September 7th, 2001, Tim calls me and says, we just got the Orbitz contract. By the way, we had like 4 of our friends that we hired. They were working out of our house. I was at USC. Tim goes, you won't believe how much it is. I go, how much? He goes, $21 million. I was walking to class and I thought, what? It was unbelievable. And the money was crazy back then if you could actually deliver sales. So we rode the pop under game for a long time. And then obviously Microsoft Service Pack 2 came out, the illustrious
pop-up blocker embedded.
And we pivoted our business. We saw what a couple of companies were doing in the behavioral targeting space. We did not invent behavioral targeting. That's somewhere between Dakota, Dave Morgan, and another company, Revenue Science. But they were doing it for publishers. And we realized that you could take a network model, because at that point we were now a legitimate ad network, buying, we had a group of publishers we bought ads from. And we knew that finance advertisers did really well on finance sites. we knew that people who would be on, let's say, CBS Market Watch back then would go to CBS Sportsline. How can we do that? And so we popularized what is behavioral targeting from a network concept. And so we really, we own the trademark on that today, behavioral targeting. We own the domain name. We also saw what another company, advertising.com, was doing with something that they called leadback that we renamed into retargeting. We, for over 10 years, just crushed it in behavioral targeting as an ad network in the US. We raised our first venture capital in 2005, so we were completely self-funded. I think 2 years later, we raised $100 million from private equity. We did European expansion. We were in 10 countries in Europe. We were just killing it over 10 years. A bunch of young guys thinking we can't be stopped. And then, life deals you some humble pie every once in a while. You might make the wrong move. But we did a lot of really big things. We acquired MySpace in 2011. That was right around the same time we were doing tons of international expansion. We pivoted into video outside of just standard display behavioral targeting. And it was that moment where we saw that there wasn't a big moat around behavioral targeting, network-based behavioral targeting. Why we saw that there was no moat, and it really set the future all the way back in 2011. We knew that cookies would eventually go away. And we looked at two things. One, there wasn't a moat and lots of people could copy it. So how do we build a bit of a moat? And two, we saw what Facebook had the capability to do, which was logged in users. So think perfect addressability. That's a better form of targeting than cookie-based. We saw that there was just so much in third-party data of just junk data out there. Marketers acting off of, signal that they believe is valuable, that they believe is driving value, that does not. And we saw that more identity-based targeting was really going to be the future. And we saw that was a big trend. And then we also, in the same time, in 2011, we started a company called Xumo, XUMO, the free streaming ad-supported company that we sold to Comcast. And we believed in two big things. Identity-based targeting, all the way back in 2011, was going to be the future. And CTV and streaming was going to be huge. Now, we're really good at knowing what's going to happen. When it happens, we have no idea. But,
we're consistently 5 to 10 years too early, which translate to financial terms means you lost tons of money.
But eventually we typically get it right. To answer your one question, our biggest milestone.
The IPO was.
Yeah, the IPO was huge.
Greatest experience ever as an entrepreneur.
Another great one was, we sold a majority position in our company to Time Inc. in 2015. That was quite the experience of a big media company. Not a great one, but certainly one that we learned a lot. We were able to buy the company back from them and then take it public 15 months later. Most people don't know this. Should we tell it? Okay.
Do it.
Time Inc., there were certainly some good people there. Unfortunately, it was a business that was desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. And we got fortunate to just stick it out, wait them out, let the bad actors fall. Another company comes in and hostile takeover bid of a magazine company by another magazine company, Meredith. And they acquire Time Inc. and they come to us and say, we can't run a software company. We sell magazines and we're really good at it. Why don't you guys sell this company to someone else? After about a year of running a process, we tried to buy it originally. They wanted to sell it to somebody else. We bought the company back for $27 million. On Halloween of 2019. 15 months later, we took it public for $1.5 billion. Our greatest accomplishment is that we stick it out. We never quit. We play the long game. And that's what served us, the best. And I'll tell you, running a company with brothers, a lot of people have partners. But at some point, your interests diverge. And, can you 100% trust your partners, or, whether they're on your board or your investors? No, at some point those interests diverge, but you can always trust your brother. You guys might yell at each other and scream at each other and argue, and every once in a while fist
we
fight.
say horrible things to each other.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all? That's like the advantage of having a sibling. You're like, don't worry, you'll be over it tomorrow.
But that's really the advantage there, is that we're brothers. And we're certainly fiercely competitive outside and even with each other, because it drives the business. but we've always figured out a way. We just never give up, and we just go after what we're aiming for.
This is AdTechGod, and I command you to listen to this commercial message. This week's episode is brought to you by Kevel's Retail Media Cloud. Built on an API-first foundation, this platform empowers retail media networks to flexibly customize ad experiences and enhance their data control, resulting in more tailored ad experiences for users. Don't settle for black box limitations or the costs of building alone. Kevel's Retail Media Cloud brings together the power of ad serving and CDP personalization to create on-site ads for retailers and marketplaces in a privacy-safe way. Launch a retail media network that your advertisers will love in as little as 14 days. To learn more, go to kevel.com/listen. Again, go to kevel.com/listen. You both seem to have a great perspective of the industry and foresight into what is coming. What do you guys think is coming up in the horizon generally in the industry that you feel is really exciting and impactful?
Which one to talk about? I mean, there's really two that we focus on. First one is just the gigantic tailwind of connected television. We've been obsessed with connected television and streaming since we created Xumo. And, there's really two. Xumo's a content distribution business. Viant is the streaming advertising business. And so they really have two different unique goals. But to us, we just see the streaming TV opportunity, which is just TV. It's just how the content gets delivered is over a different form. The TV business is the advertising business. Always has been, always will be. And that's what's so exciting about connected TV is that all the balls are being thrown up again, both from consumers and packages to the content owners that are important to what people watch and how they watch it. To us, that's probably just one huge area of enormous excitement that we spend hours and hours upon every day thinking about and have for over a decade or so. So I would say connected television on one. On two, it's solving the complexity problem in the ad tech industry. Obviously there's identity that I didn't touch on, but we feel we have that solved to a large degree. But getting to AI, artificial intelligence, changing the way user interfaces interact with demand side platforms is very, very exciting as the two guys who are building one of the competitive ones out there, and really simplifying just this sea of choices that you have. And in the beginning, when optimization was about publishers and time of day, humans were pretty good at it. But now between audience segments, ad formats, publishers, channels, devices, time of day, there are too many combinations of those things. To one where on our innovation day, we talked, there's over 90 trillion combinations available in our DSP. So a human obviously can't look at all of those and make the best decision, but a computer certainly can. And artificial intelligence is really, really good at that. And so for us, changing the user interface, if the old days were managed service businesses of ad networks, et cetera, which gave way to self-service platforms, we do think a fully autonomous is kind of the next wave. That's another big area. Creative automation, what's old is new again all the time. First wave of this was dynamic creative optimization, which failed basically because you couldn't go beyond geography or DMA. You could personalize the ad a bit, but not totally. And now with generative AI, the ability to create advertisements that are informed with audience data theoretically seems real, even though it's not real today. And I think on the creative side, there's been tons of innovation on the media side, but now turning technology towards improving creative, we think there is enormous upside. I always tell people internally, we have the best technology that can identify all the best placements. And then on top of that, we can identify the lowest possible price and still win on behalf of our customers. But yet we still have to show the same terrible ad that all of our competitors are showing as well too. And so we do think that area is a huge area of innovation that will take years to bring forward.
I was going to ask that. When do you think it will become a game changer? Because obviously there's a lot of development and maturity in AI that we need to achieve?
Yeah, certainly. Part of it is conditioning, I would say,
Clients.
trust with people, right? To trust it. We have this product, our AI bid optimizer, that's incredible. Over half our customers use it. It handles, in our software, because we offer so much transparency and control to the traders that operate on behalf of their advertiser, right? Our bidding is a key function. But to bid a different price by publisher, by channel, by creative type, by audience segment, you have to deliver automation. It's just too much for the trader. So being able to deliver, when we launched our AI bid optimizer, gaining trust with customers that it delivered value was the biggest thing.
That it won't make a mistake.
Right.
Also.
Exactly.
And hurt it.
And what a lot of customers don't like is if they lower their price in the DSP and then their win rate goes down. So then they serve less impressions and they're not pacing properly. A lot of them feel they need to have enough media in the market to drive demand for their product. So if you pay too low of a price and you don't win, you have less money, therefore their business results go down. But gaining trust with customers to trust the AI, to show the savings. And not only that, what it ended up doing was delivering near perfect pacing for customers. That was just a huge win. So that's like an early way that we wanted to help gain. And it's going to be a model of how we continually roll out AI products. Every time we have a bunch of products in the queue and a lot of other ideas. But the big thing that our product team starts with is how are we going to prove the customer value right up front? If we don't, they're not going to use it. And then what's the point? So creative is going to be one of those things. There's a lot of constituencies and a lot of old history around creative. I mean, when I think of the advertising industry, the first thing I always think about is creative, because that's really where it started. I think David Ogilvy, messaging, all that. That's another big area that's probably going to take longer. But, and to some people think, oh, that's scary. That's going to be bad for ad agencies. No, I don't. I think that it's whoever decides to embrace it and choose it as an advantage is actually going to win.
I had this conversation actually on episode 1 with Terry Kawaja, and we talked about AI. And AI comes up a lot in this podcast. I just think it's such a hot topic in the industry. You can't ignore it. You have to embrace it and make it more powerful in your own way. So the fact that, you guys are doing that and lots of companies in the industry are exploring how they can implement AI into their solutions, I think is the only way to go, or you're going to fall behind. So, it's natural to explore it and create something unique for your company.
And it creates future advantage for you the more expertise you gain today. We have this mantra that you don't have to be nervous about sharing what you know with others because knowledge compounds. And so as you build your base of knowledge, you don't need to fear sharing a tidbit of information with others. And that's how I feel about any new area that shows up, like with AI. If you would have said a year and a half ago, what do you know about it? My answer was 0. But the reality is you just have to take that leap of faith and start gaining the knowledge, because knowledge compounds and you can get to where you need to be if you just take that initial step now.
What about the industry right now in particular keeps you up at night? What gives you nightmares, or what concerns you the most?
I don't really get, this is our 25th year in the business. And I'll tell you, this space can be volatile. And what you can't do as an operator in the business, or even if you're just a salesperson or whatever, I always say this, you can't ride the highs too high, because the lows in the industry come and then you'll ride the lows too hard. And you got to keep an even head. So what I would say, what keeps us up at night, I know that's not probably the factual way to say it. We don't really get kept up at night. We plan pretty far into the future. I would say things that might concern you or that impede progress. I think that old habits die hard in this industry, and that holds back innovation. One thing has kept me up for a long time, or concerned me for a long time, it gets into cookieless. I was at CES this year, and I spoke to somebody who they're the head of digital for a very large brand, and it's a luxury brand. And I said, well, tell me where you're finding the best results and where you're spending your money. And this person told me digital display. And I had to double take. It's a luxury brand. What do you mean? Display ads? Person said yes. So, well, how? He says the cost per customer is the lowest. I said, well, there's no way that banner ads are truly delivering for a luxury brand. That makes zero sense. But when they log into their ad server and they see a cookie-based report of attribution, it does say that. So when I think about real impactful advertising, that's not it. There's certainly a place for display ads. But a gentleman at P&G 15 years ago told Tim and I, we were in there, we were pitching them, trying to sell them behaviorally targeted display ads. And we said, well, how come you guys don't buy this? And this guy said, I can't sell soap in a banner ad. He says, our game is reach and frequency at the household level. I have to inform you of my brand. And when you're walking down the soap aisle, you remember my ad, you remember my brand, and maybe even that jingle, and you buy my brand versus my competitor. It's like, that's advertising. What you guys do is an advertising. Now, I thought he was an idiot when he told me that, and we left there without an order. But over time, you realize what he was saying is that those don't drive demand. They can capture some demand or get credit for them via the cookie. But real impactful advertising, I think, has eluded much of digital advertising, and marketers follow false signals because of things like cookies and IDs and this concept of who showed the last ad gets the credit. And that has literally, I think, wasted billions upon billions of dollars of clients' money.
Negative value. And
we still see, you still see the impacts today. What we're excited about is that when cookieless, finally is here, and Chrome is the last browser to keep it, that when that happens, marketers are going to see the impact in their results. They're going to look, their measurement systems and their ad servers will no longer spit out the cost per customers that they're used to. And that will last between 4 to 6 weeks before they start shifting money. And then that will finally open up where real advertising to drive real demand is going to take over. And that's where we get so excited about CTV. That TV has always been, we've been a huge believer in TV ever since we started this business. It's the best medium ever. There was problems with linear television because there's no addressability, difficult to measure, but brands have been buying it for 50 plus years because it works. Now they don't know which half is working, so to speak, but now with streaming TV, we're excited about the future, and the future is going to be what we're going to help deliver, which is walled garden level addressability against the world's greatest content.
With a proven format. Yeah.
That's the thing. I think that, gauging success was done in a weird way with cookies, right? Like not necessarily the best way to do it. They were giving credit where maybe credit wasn't due. I totally agree with you in terms of TV and the TV growth. I think we've only just scratched the surface of television growth and connected television growth. As we see billions of dollars start to shift from, traditional television to streaming, being backed by premium content, the right type of environment, additional targeting capabilities across household or individual, like this is going to take off.
It's the biggest tailwind the industry has seen in 20 years.
I'm with you. I totally agree. My last question of the day, guys, this should be fun. What controversial hill are you willing to die on?
Really good question. Well, let's say this. I'm successful, so I don't really want to die. My whole goal is to not die.
I'm trying to get as much time in as I can, guys.
Yep, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the controversial hill, it seems right now, is everyone's blaming Google for cookie deletion. And I'm not blaming Google for cookie deletion. I think it's the kind of the right thing to do. As Chris just alluded to, this last touch attribution focus for the last 2 decades has ruined marketers and just gone awry of the foundational principles of advertising. And so that's what I guess the hill I would die on is I don't think Google's the ultimate bad guy. I don't think everything they do is this coordinated effort to be a monopolist. I just think they've created great products and services that did become these monopolies to a degree. So to me, I don't view Google as evil. I just view Google as doing what any of us would do who were running that company at that time to keep growing and keep the pressures of being a business that's a public company. So I don't know. To me, It's not really controversial anymore, but I would say I don't think Google's the arch evil enemy of the industry. I'm actually glad that they're deleting the Chrome cookie, because now marketers will wake up and not just look at a double-click report that that's the value that they're getting from digital advertising. Because as we all know, digital advertising creates more value than we get credit for. I think it's been a huge driver of America's GDP. If you think of the growth in e-commerce, the growth of all these mega corps that are tech companies, this is all due to the internet, and internet advertising played a huge role in creating all of that. So I'm kind of glad that we're at a back to basics, back to foundational principles approach in advertising.
That was a fantastic answer.
I'll give you one. I'll give you two. One on the industry. There's a lot of talk around alternative currencies, and I think there's some good companies that are hustling hard at that. However, Nielsen, I believe, lives on. And I think that if there is going to be this, currency, that I think it is going to still be them.
Nielsen is dead. Long live Nielsen.
You're not the only one who said that. I haven't released it yet, but the Dave Morgan, he says that Nielsen will also be a significant player in that space, and don't write them off.
I think so. Those old habits die hard. They're an institution in advertising. And I think that is what is going to occur. I'll tell you one other thing, though, just outside of, AdTech. Thing, I guess a hill I'm willing to die on, which a couple of years ago was much more controversial. I still think it needs to be said to certain people. I remember when we were kids growing up, my parents would walk in the house and they'd say, shut off the news, stop watching that. And we would, fine, we'd change the channel. We didn't have a remote, so you had to walk to the TV and change it. But I still think that holds true today. There's too many people who believe what they see on the news, and they listen on social media, and they believe these things. If you want to be successful, that don't believe any of these new ideals that people push. At the end of the day, you want to be successful, you need to absolutely work your butt off, and you have to be willing to work harder than anyone else. There's no other way. If you want another way, buy a lotto ticket. Another one, if you want to be successful in a company, be in the office, work harder than everyone else, build relationships across the organization, make yourself known and valuable. And that is what drives real success. We could try and change the definition of it, but in the end, if you practice those things, you're going to steamroll everyone else.
Yeah, you get a master's or a PhD in your company and watch your earnings potential skyrocket.
Right. No, you make a great point. I think getting the internal stakeholders and building your relationships internally is a key part. That's something I'm very good at. That's in my personal and professional life. That's network for me is really like the strongest thing I have. The in-office piece, this comes up often. I like the hybrid model. I don't necessarily like the full remote model. I don't like the full in-office model. But I think, 3 or 4 days in office, 1 or 2 days at home is just the right balance to get enough face time and the flexibility of work life.
And the more senior you are, the more remote you can be. The longer you've been in a company, the more remote you can be. If you're sub 35 and you are new to a company or been there 2, 3, 4
if you lack
years
experience,
get in the office.
There is no way you have to
There's no faster way to learn.
Right. I agree. Well, guys, that really brings us to the end of the podcast. This has been amazing. So thank you guys for being here.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks, ATG.
Thank you guys, and good luck this year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the AdTechGod Pod, a podcast for the people, about the people that make AdTech great. Stay connected with me for more insights, trends, and interviews in the realm of AdTech. Don't miss out on our latest updates, so follow me on X, Instagram, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget, ATG Slack community has insights, networking opportunities, and jobs. Keep the conversation going and stay at the forefront of AdTech innovation.